Standard isn't just about meeting basic expectations like organic, mold and mycotoxin free. It's about surpassing them to deliver a coffee that tastes great, nurtures the body, improves the environment and promotes wellness for everyone in the chain. With shade-grown, hand-picked beans, roasted to maintain as much antioxidant capacity as possible, Purity Coffee creates a new benchmark for what coffee can and should be, giving you the confidence that you're making a healthy and delicious choice.
Hi, and welcome to Sovereign Sisters Podcast. I'm your host, Angela Atkins of YourHealthUnbound.com, and I welcome you to what I considered unfiltered and uncensored thoughts that I have about what's going on in the world today. And please, you are so welcome to join in this discussion because it is important to me that we have a discussion that is just me, not me talking at you, because I think we need to share ideas and we need to share strategies and we need to start working together. I've said it all along from the beginning of this podcast. We need to work as a community, whether that community is local, meaning your neighborhood, your county, your city, your state, or if it's just something, virtual, where we get together and we share ideas and we share resources and strategies to make things work, because I really feel like we're at a critical juncture. Yes, we have a new administration in place and things are changing slowly, but it's not everything. And there's still so much going on that could be changed by the power of the people. And that's the thing that I've been trying to emphasize all along. If we are sovereign people, which we should be because we are Americans with a constitution, then we should be out there speaking our minds and not just hiding behind video. I mean, I do more than just talk here. I talk to everyone that I know and I try to express my opinion. Now, I live in a state that's not as red as many people live in and that have the comfort of having a community that thinks like them. I feel kind of isolated in the respect that even in the little area that I live in the little community I live in, there may be one or two people that think like me, but it's not large enough that you can go and do action. So I have to speak out to a larger group that hears me or at least understands what I'm going for, because I feel like there's so much that we can do as American citizens that we should not rely on some authority to give us rights. We have already been given those rights by God. God gave us those rights, and the founders of our country just put them on paper, knowing that these rights come from God. And we shouldn't be alarmed that when you say, this is my right, yes, it is. It's not something new. It's something that's been around since the inception of this country. And so when we talk about our freedoms and our rights, they are God-given. They're not authority-driven. So we need to be the ones to get in there and make a difference. And so some of the things I want to talk about is I hear all the time, Trump's in office now. Let's give him a chance. Okay, he signed how many EOs? I mean, it just seemed like it was EO City. But it seems like he only went so far. So one of the things we talked about in another podcast was his executive orders. So he did great signing an EO, getting the J6 prisoners out, but it only went so far. So a majority of them did get out, and, praise God that they are free. But there are still those, at least if the story is true, that are still being held in detention centers because there are either wardens or mayors or governors who are violating Trump's EO. Well, if Trump is president, and we say he is, and that gives him the power to write these executive orders, then why didn't he send the marshals in to wherever these people are still being held and arrest those wardens, those mayors, those governors, or whoever violated his orders? We gave him that authority to do things like that. And yet these few still languish because he only goes so far. Again, why? It doesn't make sense. Is he waiting for us, the people, again, to say, hey, come on, finish what you started? Or is there some other thing behind this? Now, I know there were different things, pardons and then commutations and all. I'm talking about the people who are still in jail. Why? You wrote an executive order, you listed who could be set free, and these, whoever guards are, whether, as I said, wardens or other officials, have kept them in jail. You have the power to arrest them for not doing what they have been instructed to do by the leader of the country. Okay, so you need to take it a step further. So every little step maybe requires a few more steps. And that's where I'm after. Every little step seems to stop, and like we have to pause. We have to think about it. We have to wait a little while. Again, this slow rolling things. Like when Trump started talking about taxes, it was, oh, first no tax on tips, then no tax on overtime, or no tax on Social Security. None of it's come to pass. So we're still waiting. But this warm up idea, it drives me crazy. I don't need to be warmed up. You're going to give me back the money that I earn? Fantastic. Let's do it. Everybody should be cheering that. And his whole April 2nd, it's going to be this great day. It's because he's going to impose the tariffs. This is what's going to make it happen, that we don't have these taxes. So why aren't people more on board? And why aren't we being told the full truth? I don't like the bits and pieces. I think the bits and pieces keep people too complacent. We need some shakeup here. We need people literally to be smacked on the face. Somebody needs to walk them up and give them a little tap and say, pay attention. This is telling you something. We're trying to make something happen here. We need you to get involved. But too many people, as I've said before, sit back, wait for an authority to do whatever it is they're going to do, and then either agree or disagree. And of course, they disagree. They say, oh, should never have had him in power, should never have done. Well, again, if you need somebody in authority to tell you what to do, then I guess you're not sovereign. And that's the whole point of this. If you are sovereign, you do not need someone to tell you whether or not you need to do something. How many years have you heard? And I know there have been oodles of interview with people like Sherry Jackson, who said taxes are voluntary, and yet people still file them. That's your decision. You made the decision. So when someone says now no taxes, why are you getting up in arms? Almost everybody I know hates filling out taxes. But when somebody gives you an opportunity, now we have to coddle you and make you feel better. So let's stop this. Let's start using critical thinking skills. If I'm not taxed on my income, then I'm going to get basically an increase in my pay because I'm not losing it up front. I'm going to get it in whole. So shouldn't that be something you engage with people, engage with if those leaders you're talking to, are like, oh, well, we'll have to see what happens. Saying, no, we the people say this is the way it should be. We should never have gone through that. That was a bad idea because it set up the Federal Reserve. And that's obviously not good for us, the people. I have a comment coming in. Hold on. Said just out now, President Trump just authorized the immediate production of energy utilizing clean coal. Well, that's excellent. So how long will that take till our energy bills start coming down? That's the answer. So, this green energy thing has been a total sham. Yes, we should use energy wisely. We shouldn't waste energy, but that doesn't mean this green energy has really any merit to it, because that green energy, the backbone was always something else, was always coal or natural gas. You can't just out of nowhere produce green energy, this electric or some other proposed fuel. You have to have some backbone there. And I will not use the term fossil fuel because that, again, is a hoax. These are not made from fossils. Oil is the lifeblood of the earth. It is given to us by God, and we should use it wisely. So I agree. So if we're going to use the production of energy using clean coal, which is another natural mineral that God's given us in this earth, let's do it. Let's make things more efficient, not some pie in the sky green energy, which really didn't have any basis. It had no feet to stand on because it always relied on another type of energy. So I appreciate you pointing that out. It must have just come out and I didn't see it. So I really hope that people realize what we have been talked at, basically, just constantly talked at, saying you need to go green or this green energy has really been a smokescreen. It's to do away with what is meant for us to use and to rely on things that are not sustainable. So here's another comment that came in. Elon Musk's Doge found there's twice as many government credit cards than there are humans, with each having a 10K limit. Okay, now our Doge insider actually told us something about this. Our Doge insider actually was one of the people who had these credit cards. It's not that the government is paying for everything you put on this credit card. You still have to use the credit card in your name, as I understand this from the insider, and then he would pay for it in full, or if he didn't pay it for it in full, he got in trouble, and then he would submit for a reimbursement. Now, they may or may not have reimbursed everything. So let's say he was on an assignment somewhere and he had to get a meal and he spent more than his daily allotment. Well, that was on him. That wasn't on the government. So these messages coming out are not really telling you the whole story. It's not telling you the ins and outs. It's giving you a bite, a sound bite. Oh, well, there were twice as many credit cards as there are employees. Well, could it be that the department had a credit card and the employee had a credit card, but that employee was responsible for paying the bill? And the government only paid what they thought were reasonable charges. So again, I don't like this, again, villainization of the government employee for the benefit of the general population so they can be humored. Oh, look, we're doing something. I don't like it. I find it egregious that we're using one group of people to villainize. If you did this for any other group of people, if you said a specific group of people, and I'm just going to name people and I'm not trying to villainize it. If you said all Muslims were bad, or all Middle Easterns were bad, or all blacks were bad, or all whites were bad, you would be taken to task because that is victimizing an entire group of people based on their one thing about them, just their race or something about them. This is villainizing one group of people because they have a job with the government. I think this is wrong. Again, like we said in the episode with the insider on Doge, they should be looking at the people at the top who made the decisions. They're the ones that caused the problem. They're the ones that things trickle down. They don't go up. When you're in an organization, your boss tells you what to do. It's not the other way around. So when the policy is made, as an employee, you follow the policy or you're out or some consequence. And so if they're given a credit card, like Elon says, these credit cards had a 10K limit. Well, they had a 10K limit because maybe that person was a purchaser for the government and was buying something that was large, servers, something. You cannot judge the entirety of government workers on a single instance. And this is what I don't like about this. Again, bits and pieces of information, sound bites, not the whole story. We need to do better. So that gets me started on another thing. So one of the things I was starting about to tell you about was people saying this is a movie and I'm tired of it. Also, people have said, well, Trump says this and we need to look at the meanings. We need to decode these things. No, we're way past decoding, way past it. We've had years that people who use Q and, the board and saying, oh, well, this means this and Q said that. I don't care anymore. I don't care. I think it was all for the purpose of keeping us from going to guns, to keep the people who would be willing to take to arms to protect whatever they felt was necessary, their families, their communities, to rise up and take back our country. This was a way to keep us at bay. Okay, we're past that. We're way past that. So I don't want to hear Trump or anybody else speaking in code or giving us clues or air cues. I don't want it. I want the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Whether I like it or not, tell me the truth. That's where I'm at with this. So again, don't tell me partial stories. Don't tell me made up things. This is going to be the best day, blah, blah, blah. Tell me. I'm just going to impose tariffs. Just say it outright. Tell me what's going on and stop talking around things. Say the truth. That's where we're at. And that goes to another one. Our Secretary of HHS, Kennedy. He has said things in the past as children's health defense leader. He has said the C-19 jab was the worst thing that ever happened. That was his intention when he said what he said. And then he goes before Congress and he says, "Oh, I'm going to fully support the CDC childhood schedule." Okay. I'm not calling you a liar, but here's the thing. The C-19 jab is on the childhood schedule. So which one is true? To me, when you say two different things, one of them has to be a lie. So that's frustrating to me. And again, people make up stories saying, "Oh, he's got to say what he's got to say, so he gets nominated and he gets confirmed," and whatever. Do I want a liar in place? No, I want somebody who's going to tell me the whole truth. If he couldn't find a way to say the truth and get confirmed, then maybe I'm not so sure he's going to do the job I think he's going to do. And this is something I wanted to show you. I'm going to bring up a slide that shows what he said about red dye, artificial food dyes. So I'm going to read it for the people who are just listening. Breitbart News posted, at a closed-door gathering of CEOs of companies like Kellogg's, Smucker's, and General Mills, Robert Kennedy Jr. demanded an end to artificial food dyes. Quote, "The secretary made clear his intention to take action unless the industry is willing to be proactive with solutions." Unquote. All right. What exactly does that mean, to be proactive with solutions? So are you going to ban artificial dyes? They're chemicals. Why should we have them in our food? Why are we feeding them to our children? I don't get what he's saying because, again, he's not clear. He's talking in around the issue. You need to be proactive in your solutions. How about you need to fix the food so it doesn't poison us? Because people don't get it. They don't get the fact that artificial dyes are really poison. They just slowly, they're not going to kill you outright. You may take 20 years or so, but that's the end result is going to be it's damaging your cells in some fashion. So I again, speak the truth, speak it clearly, let people hear it. Then they can start to absorb it. Maybe they need to hear it 4, 5, 6 times. I get that, but at least let them hear it. So another thing I wanted to do is show you the next video of his interview that I found next, where he speaks about seed oils and pesticides. And I'm going to play the whole thing through, and then I'll come back and talk to you about it a little bit more.
Why should people be worried about these kind of products?
Seed oils are one of the most unhealthy ingredients that we have in foods. And seed oils, the reason they're in the foods is because they're heavily subsidized. They're very, very cheap, but they are associated with all kinds of very, very serious illnesses, including body-wide inflammation.
Right.
Which affects all of our health. It's one of the worst things you can eat, and it's almost impossible to avoid. If you eat any processed food, you're going to be eating seed oil.
Right, and it's interesting, the government subsidizes it. Why would the government want to subsidize something that's going to make people sick? And then in the end, we all end up paying for that in terms of healthcare costs, which are skyrocketing.
Yeah, because that is a direct result of corruption. About 75% of FDA's budget comes from regulated industry, and that means food processors and pharmaceutical industry. All of them profit from a sick population.
You know, a big item that, and by the way, it's getting very expensive, are cereals. Why is the food coloring in particular bad?
Food coloring, you see here yellow food coloring, that is a petroleum product. Mm-hmm. It's associated with really, with depression. It's associated with autoimmune injuries and ADHD.
Yeah.
These, and red dye also is very bad. In Europe, the same companies are producing the same products, but they're using natural coloring. But here they can get away with it. We have about almost 1,000 chemicals that are in our food that are either outright banned in Europe or actively discouraged. So you wouldn't be able to buy this kind of stuff in Europe. You ask about why it's so cheap, why it's so ubiquitous. It's because we subsidize the worst foods. We subsidize it with about 70% of our food stamp program is to process foods, which are all poison.
Right. One of the things that's interesting is you'll see on labels natural flavors, which is this catch-all phrase that I guess was lobbied for, but the ingredients in natural flavors are not really natural.
No. In our country, natural flavors are chemical products. So you can't trust what's on the ingredient label, and the reason for that, again, is government corruption. It's that the agency, the USDA, the FDA, have been captured by the industries they're supposed to regulate. And they all have an interest in subsidies and then in mass poisoning the American public.
Yeah, I want to talk about pesticides, and then let's talk about the policy. So let's talk about the pesticides and the things that worry you about. I mean, this looks like fresh food, right? What should I be worried about here?
Yeah, I mean, the irony is, like, for example, my wife loves kale, and she had the impression that kale is actually good for you. If it's organic, it's very good for you. But most kale and strawberries, for example, grapes, are contaminated with pesticides. And particularly the Environmental Working Group has found what they call the dirty dozen, some of the worst pesticides on these products. So, I look at a strawberry and I think, oh, this is a healthy food. Right. But in most cases, unless it's organic, certified organic, you are getting something that's actually hurting you.
So let me summarize what I think he said. So Secretary Kennedy spoke against seed oils, stating they are one of the most unhealthy ingredients causing inflammation throughout the body. But they're in most processed foods because they are subsidized by our government and therefore cheap. He then points out that the regulatory agencies, the FDA, the USDA, that are supposed to safeguard the public are captured by the industries that are supposed to regulate. Now, this includes big food and big P pharma. So keeping customers sick is a profitable business. But then he goes on to point out that the poisoning of our food is through pesticides. So great. Make the public aware. Do more of this. But on the other hand, I have heard him speak out and say, well, let's give people a choice. Okay. So you have people being poisoned, which not only affects their bodies, but also affects their minds. And you expect them to make conscious decisions about things that they don't really have enough information. You just can't come out on one, broadcast and say, yep, seed oils are really bad for you and people are going to stop using, their canola. No, that's not going to happen. They're like, that's cheap. It's the cheapest thing I can find in the supermarket. How can I do this? You need to have ways that it can be done. So if this person who's been eating this way for all their lives lacks critical thinking skills, they're not going to be able to choose something that's healthy for them over something that's unhealthy but cheaper, because most likely they can't afford the more expensive food. And you're going to still give them the right to make choices. Yes, everybody has a right to make a choice. I get that. But I think we need to go back and look at the fact 200 years ago, around when, our nation was early in its beginnings, All food was organic. There weren't any processed foods. So people didn't have to make a choice. And people come back with, oh, but they died so much younger. Well, you know why? Because they're working on the farm and they got their arm cut in the combine, or they're trying to have a baby and there's complication and there's no hospital or there's no doctor or nurse nearby to help. It's not because they ate poorly. It's because their lives were harder and they struggled to get, to make a living. Our lives are much easier by all the conveniences that we have. And yet people are choosing not to support their own bodies by eating foods that will help them. So, one of the other things that he doesn't really go into is the fact that these processed foods are addictive. And if you watch the last podcast, I talked about food addiction. It's a real thing. They spend billions of dollars doing scientific research to come up with the right chemical formulas so that the food is addictive. So you'll just keep coming back and buying their food over and over again. And you don't even realize it because your brain is triggered. Oh, I see something I really like. I see something that tastes really good to me. And it's an autonomic response. You're just going to go for it. You're not going to think about, oh, this is bad for me. It's got some sort of chemical in it because you're already addicted. It's like telling the alcoholic, you can go into the liquor store and just figure out what you want. It's okay. You have that choice. Yes, we all have choices. But do you want the alcoholic to stay an alcoholic? You're trying to help them. At least I would hope you would try to help them to recover from something that is addictive. Same way it goes for, different medications or other drugs. You don't want somebody to become addicted to it, that they are reliant on it to their detriment. Yes, there are drugs that are possible, many drugs out there that people use on a regular basis that are not killing them, but there are drugs that are, and we need to look at that. We need to be aware that we wouldn't just say, go ahead and keep using them, even though we know it's going to kill you. But that's what they do. That's what the big P Pharma does. Here's more drugs. We're not going to, and people don't listen to it. I've said it before. You listen to it on television and the commercials come on and they run through all the side effects. People don't even hear it anymore. Could cause whatever, including death. People don't care. They just want what they want. Oh, this is going to give me something I really want. It's going to make me look better. It's going to help me lose weight. I don't have any personal responsibility. I'll just take a pill. That's the point I'm trying to make here. We need to take personal responsibility with our food choices, with our medical choices, with every choice in our life, and not rely on someone else or something else to tell us what's good for you. Your body will tell you what's good for you and what's not good for you. Plenty of people don't realize that, having indigestion or having gas or acid reflux after you eat is not normal. It's your body telling you something is wrong, that maybe either you shouldn't have eaten that food or something else is interacting with whatever you're doing. People are not making the choices here from a critical perspective. They're doing it out of reflexiveness or what they've been told to do. Somebody in a white coat told them to do it. Somebody who they value told them to. They're not listening to their own bodies. And we eat this food and we don't even listen to what our bodies do. So here's another comment here. Nobody wants to take personal responsibility. I can't even give away supplements or food to friends and family. Now, isn't that a shame? Seriously, you can't even give away food. That, to my family, we grow, and we're just planting our garden for this year. We're going to grow the things that we like. We're going to do it organically. We don't use pesticides, herbicides. Everything's natural. We use electroculture. We did last year, at least get a great outcome. And then when you offer it to people, it's like, nah, it's all right. I just get it at the store, because they don't trust the person to know enough. They think a grocery store or some big processing plant knows better than somebody who's willing to take the time and learn how to grow food for themselves. It's really quite a shame. So I can feel your pain on that. So again, it's going back to what Kennedy said. What disturbs me is, again, these little bits and pieces. We're just going to lay this out here. You're going to have to do that over and over and over again. You can't expect one announcement, one public statement, one news clip to make a difference. Until they put the truth on the little boxes in everybody's home called television and take away all the lies on television, we're not going to be able to get better. Now, I don't know about you. I can't stand watching live television, but I've said before, I've seen the ads. It's like every commercial or every other commercial, it's either a drug, a shot, fast food. I'm like, what? Take them off. First off, where's the EO that says, hey, Big P Harma, you cannot advertise directly to consumers anymore? That will be amazing because it will stop people from running out and saying, let's get the next best thing because I didn't take personal responsibility in doing whatever I was supposed to do. And now I'm whatever. Now I'm fat. Now now I've got reflux or whatever it is. They didn't take personal responsibility and eat appropriately. They didn't take personal responsibility and exercise to keep their body in shape. And now they want a pill. And now they want some sort of medical intervention to make them better. That's where we need to start educating people on the television. That's how we've been over the years, been constantly bombarded with propaganda, with medical information that hasn't been true. 99% of what you know about medicine is probably completely a lie, and most of it is dangerous. I mean, I can give you an example. The whole point where people say, I have acid reflux, I've got too much, I got too much fluid and hydrochloric fluid in my stomach. I can't even think tonight. That's not true. You don't have enough. When you're low in the gastric fluid in your stomach is when you start getting the reflux. And yet, what does the doctor do? He provides you with like a proton pump inhibitor, so it will reduce even further. That's not going to help you at all. In fact, it's going to make the situation worse where you're going to have to rely on it. So if people would only get the truth, the absolute truth, that would make a big difference. And the point of the matter is you're not going to get the truth until they break through and stop propagandizing the American public. Again, I've said it before in other podcasts. Once that Smith Modernization Act of 2012 was passed, everybody was able to propagandize. All the media, they could propagandize the Americans, and you didn't even know it because you thought it was coming from a trusted source. So if we would how simple could it be? Get in there, Trump, and say, we're going to repeal Smith Modernization Act of 2012 and then send it off to Congress to codify. Okay, let's do it. Let's do anything like that. I mean, it's so simple. Another one of the things that's easy to do, I'm sick of people not getting the fact they're being poisoned in every fashion. Our air, our water, our soil, our bodies, everything is being poisoned. And so when you walk outside and you look up and you see those streaks in the sky, people, again, have been so numb to it. And because the media tells them, oh, it's nothing going on up there, you're not being sprayed, they don't believe it. Chemtrails are real. As a matter of fact, I think I have, no, I didn't put yes, I did. Hold on. Let's look at the chemtrails. So it even came out and said the FAA, NASA, and NOAA admit jet spray chemicals that linger in the sky and alter the weather. But I'm telling you, you can't say it just once because people still won't believe you. You have to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it until they get, oh my God, I was lied to. How could you lie to me? That's where it comes back to. You have to start giving people the truth so they can start using their rational brain and making those critical thinking skills work for them again. So this is another easy one. Trump could sign an EO and say, can't do chemtrails anymore, not anywhere in the US. And then again, send it off to Congress to codify it into law. But that would stop immediately. And how wonderful would it be to have blue skies that, God made and not some man-made funky looking cloud that just grays out everything. It's horrible. I don't even like being outside. If I see chemtrails, I go inside. Or if I can't go inside, I stay away as much as I can because I know it can't be good. They can't be spraying. I've heard people say, oh, they're spraying, ivermectin or hydrochloroquine in there. I have to call BS on that because one, I don't believe people do good things yet in that sense. And if they did good things, it would be something we would hear from the powers that be. Look how we're doing good for you. We're not hearing that. So we need to stop it. There are other things that are going on, many things that are getting worse where they're putting, just sodium dioxide in balloons and putting them up in the air to they're trying to make the earth cooler by attempting to affect climate change. Another hoax. And again, people can't get it through their head because they've heard climate change, climate change. First, they heard, global warming. Well, it didn't warm up, so they had to change it to climate change. But here's the thing, climate does change. It's called seasons. And if you live in an area that has 4 seasons, you always get a change in the climate. And it's not due to something, it's not due to a cow farting. It's not due to us breathing. It has to do with the cycles of the earth and the way God made us to live in this environment. It is the intentional chemical changes that they put in the air, the droplets the silver iodide they put in the clouds to make rain or snow. Those are the things that are causing climate change. They're changing the climate. When I say they, it's not the good guys. I can't point you to who it actually is. I'm not on the inside. I don't know. But they're nefarious and they don't want us alive. So they're doing everything they can to make us sick. They're doing everything with the food, with the air, with the water, with the soil. So not only they're polluting the air with these chemicals that they're spraying, and there's a multitude of chemicals, they not only contaminate the air, destroy the beautiful clouds in the sky, but they come down to the earth. They fall on the animals. They fall on the soil. It contaminates our soil. And no wonder things are difficult to grow. Some of these soils have been heavily contaminated. We have to do something, and we have to demand that our government stop this because it's the government who is allowing it. You heard it was the FAA, the NOAA. It's got to stop. These are government institutions, agencies that are supposed to be there to do things to help society, but instead they are harming society. So we need to engage with whomever we can, as many as we can. I mean, we should all get on Twitter and start blasting everybody. At least somebody's looking at Twitter. If you can't call your congressman or you can't meet up with somebody who's got power, just start putting out if hundreds of thousands of people who want clean air and who want clean soil would just start saying it out loud and not waiting for the one lonely voice, not waiting for the influencer to say, oh, we should do this, and then everybody likes it. That doesn't cut it. We all need to speak out. We all need to say no more. We want clean air, clean food, clean water, clean soil, and we want food that doesn't poison us. We want air that doesn't poison us. It's time. It's way past time. And again, until we get out there and start saying it, we're only going to get dribs and drabs. You need to get out there and say it. And I think that's one of my other points I wanted to make was that everybody thinks we have free speech. It's supposed to be in our Constitution, right? That we have free speech. Yet it seems that we've been silenced for quite a few years now. It's at least I'm thinking 5, at maybe even more, that I'm recognizing it, that it's overt, that we've been silenced. And again, does this go back to the Smith-Munn Act where they can do this? Well, I think this is a little different because there are platforms. I'm not going to name names because, again, all of them. They choose to say your voice can't be heard because you say something that they disagree with, or you disagree with the narrative. They're supposed to be platforms. They're not supposed to be editors. That's what the Section 230 of the what was the Communications Decency Act. So that was supposed to be keeping things like porn and snuff and all that off of the internet and out of the airwaves. But they went further. They said, oh, nope, we're not going to allow you to say what you have to say. If you say this word or you chastise this group of people, you don't get to have that free speech. We're going to ban you or give you some sort of violation. Well, I have to say, I have said since the beginning of this, I've tried all along. I mean, we talked early on when there were 3 of us about vaccines and what they did. And, Facebook gave us a slap and we're like, okay, let's just keep going. The point of the matter is Facebook's not the only game in town. No, I'm sorry. It's not just Facebook. It's YouTube. There's other ones. I mean, you can't say it on Twitter. At least you couldn't. Maybe you can now, but back in the beginning, you couldn't say it until I guess Musk took over. But there's still some. I won't necessarily say you're banned, but you don't get to say everything that you want to say. Sometimes you'll get a little warning or something. But people are like, I have to use that. And I go to YouTube for everything because it's got a great search engine and I can find everything on it. But you know what? If you don't want people that you want to hear get banned on there, then if you stop using it and follow them to wherever they go, that they have free speech, and there's plenty of free speech platforms. Rumble's one we use here too. There's other ones, Odyssey, Cloud Hub. Follow them wherever they go. Follow the people that you want to listen to, that you feel are giving you the truth, and stop using the platforms that are not allowing the truth. They'll lose revenue. Now, I'm not saying ones and twos. It's got to be en masse. So if somebody's got 100,000 followers and they get banned off of YouTube and they say, nope, I'm gone, I'm going to another platform, all 100,000 should follow them because they're going to lose revenue. And at some point, that revenue loss will make a difference. And that's what's really important. So free speech is not just a right that you have. It is something you can exercise in a way that it's a voting with your money. So you may not be buying anything directly, but advertisers are marketing on these channels, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, on all of them. They're marketing. And if they're not getting the results they want because they've lost a whole portion of people who've left that platform is going to have to change or lose revenue. And believe me, it's all about the money. So that's something that needs to be considered. You can support these people and support your free speech by doing just that, not allowing them to silence the people who are telling the truth. And I really think this is key to our American way, being able to freely speak our mind, being able to express ourselves in a way that doesn't come out of fear. I mean, I see people all the time making images talking about, well, if you got and they do this because we're afraid to say the words for fear of being banned. What's fearful is that they feel that they have to be on that channel or else they're going to lose people. Well, I don't, if I'm talking to one person, that's one more person that I get to spread my message to. What I'm trying to get people to understand is there's power in numbers. And so if you, as a large group, if your guy or gal leaves because they've been banned or something, follow them. Don't ever go back to that channel because they will lose revenue and they'll have to reconsider it. And so maybe this is another time that people need to look into Section 230. Maybe Congress needs to actually do something about that. I won't hold my breath about that because those people are very powerful and have lots of money, as do Big Food, Big P Harma, all of it. They all have so much money, and many of our Congress are completely captured. It's not just the agencies that are captured. Our Congress is captured. They all have investments in, pharmaceuticals, in big ag, in all these things that draw them lots of money. You think they're going to give that up? Again, I've seen the meme where if politicians had to wear jackets like sports uh, professionals do, have all the logos on it, most of them would be big P Harma on it because that's where the money is. And so why are we keep electing these people? I don't understand that either. People don't, it's name recognition. I understand that. People say, oh, I know that name, I'm going to elect that person. Or it's recognition from television. They've been on ads. Oh, I saw them on an ad. They looked really good. Nobody's doing research. Or, okay, I'll give credit to those who are doing research. But the majority of people do on name recognition and what they look like and sound like on television. And that's how they vote. People need to get involved. If we're really going to have a structure in our society that allows for officials to be elected, and who knows if they're being elected at all, because we know they've been selected all along, but if we get to the point that we actually are electing people, we need to know what they stand for. And if they lie to us, or they don't do what they say they're going to do, or they back the wrong horse, so to speak, we need to get them out. And that shouldn't be a problem for anybody. Really shouldn't, because they're your representatives. It's not the other way around. We don't work for them. They work for us. So we need to hold them to a higher standard, or they need to go. That's my feeling about it. I will not vote for anybody who lies to me. I will not vote for anybody who doesn't do what they say. And I'm almost at the point, I don't want to vote for anybody, but it's difficult in this area because you really run a chance of getting the worst of the worst. So you need to think about it before you decide what you're going to do. So as we wind down, I just have some random thoughts I wanted to throw at you. So there is a single day every year for mothers and fathers, Mother's Day in May, Father's Day in June. And yet there's a whole month celebrating a deadly sin. Make it make sense. Don't get it. And I'm not being anti anything. I'm just saying you've been bamboozled. You've been completely fooled thinking that you have to cater to or bow down to the minority who are different for whatever reason, and they are welcome to be different. They are welcome to be whoever they are, but we don't have to be the ones that suffer, meaning their ideology becomes more important than the mainstream of the people who feel close to God and they feel that they are doing the right things. So you do your thing, as I always say, you do you, I'll do me, but I'm not going to have it shoved down my throat anymore. There is no sense in allowing a minority to rule the majority. So unless anybody has any other thoughts, here's a great one. When I was talking about rights, I guess I got a little lost in my talk. He said, those were God-given rights. Yes, we have God-given rights. And I think we need to start exercising them. I need to have people feel strongly about it. I mean, freedom of speech should be paramount. We shouldn't be afraid to speak our mind. Freedom of religion, and I want to put that encapsulate that. I don't think it should be freedom of religion. I think should freedom to be faithful, because religion to me is another construct. People can jump all over me for that. That's fine. I think religion is a construct that they are designed to basically control people, that different religions have different edicts and dogmas that they want people to follow. And regardless of whether or not it is godly or from God, in the sense that God delivers this to us as humans to live a good life, I don't need somebody to tell me right from wrong. I've learned that over the course of my life. I don't need a religion to tell me that. And I don't need a religion that has layers. I don't need to go to a person to confess my sins or to get some sort of absolution or any other thing that has an intermediary. I go directly to the source. God is my source. And I find that people who have direct connection with God are less likely to be bamboozled, are less likely to be fooled by the non-truths. For whatever reason, I see through the non-truths. I see through the facade, and I don't feel compelled to listen to the nonsense, because God is my direct line. If I have a question, I can pause and reflect on it, and he helps guide me. I don't get a voice. There's nothing magical that shows. It is just a direct connection. It's like a heartfelt connection to God. And if you have other people who feel the same as you, having a community, like God said, where two or more are together and in his name, that's your church. That's your church. So freedom of religion, I will choose to think of it as freedom in my faithfulness. And I think we have to remember we do have freedom of peaceful assembly, and that's where J6 was meant to disrupt us. And we need to remember that should never happen again, because we should be more aware and not fall into the traps. The J6ers were trapped. It was an honest to God trap that was set for them. And no matter what you feel about it, yes, they should have been be able to peacefully walk through, because it is our house. We pay for it. We pay all the salaries of the people that are in these buildings. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be there. So again, we need to rethink how we do things, not fall into the trap of listening to the lies, not falling into the trap of following a leader who may or may not be telling the truth or telling the whole truth, and start thinking for ourselves. Start making it our intention that before we act on anything, that we thoroughly digest the information, process it, and come up with a reasonable answer, rather than just jumping on the bandwagon or making some, half-hearted attempt at understanding. These are our lives, and these are our children's lives. We need to make sure that they are valuable, that they are worthwhile, and they are in line with our Creator. Because ultimately, we're only here for a short time, whether it's a short time in a relative sense or a short time in a global sense. But at that point, it's time, you're going to meet your maker, hopefully, and you should be able to say, I did what was expected of me because I trusted in you. Not I trusted in me, I trusted in God. And so for that, I hope everyone will understand when I say to you, as always, I do wish God's blessings on you. And I do wish that everyone from this comes out with a sense of sovereignty, with a sense of questioning everything. Don't just take what an authority says and say, that's the way it is. Does it work for you? Does it really make sense? Or is it just part of it? And if it's only part of it, why aren't we demanding the whole truth? Let's get out there. Let's demand the whole truth. Let's all stand up. I mean, I want to wage a Twitter campaign where everybody gets out there and says, all right, you said this. Now what's the rest of it? Or you said this, but you did this. What's the truth? Because without the truth, we don't have anything. We live in a lie, and I refuse to live in a lie. So until next time, God bless.